look at the in the camera.
Okay.
So you can go now.
Okay, hi, my name's Laura Oliver, and I'm a 10-year survivor, actually, of brain cancer. It happens to be actually the worst form of brain cancer. It's called a glioblastoma multiforme grade 4. And I'm kind of amazed that I'm talking to you here because I'm not supposed to be here. The odds are so much against me that it's kind of amazing that I'm alive to talk about it 10 years after the diagnosis. So that's what that's what I've survived so far. And what it's like to be a survivor, well, I'll tell you, I can't quite get over it. Sometimes I think, oh my God, I've been so lucky. How is it that I've been so able to survive and so many other people haven't? Trying to figure out what that means, if it means anything, and how to spend this precious life now. It also means that for however long I survive, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many more years I have. You know, who does? But that's pretty much it, I'd say.
So you kind of stated a little bit, but can you tell us what how you define being a survivor? To you, being a survivor is?
To me, being a survivor is not just so much being alive, but it's also coming up with one's own idea of what death is and how that affects you. I had to do a lot of rethinking, I mean, really deep rethinking about what death is. And I did come up with some ways of looking at death that were more comfortable for me. And I think that's a big part of being a survivor, because when I leave this world, I hope that my idea of death will be what happens. So that's part of what I think of as a survivor.
If you could just tell us about, your story. When you were diagnosed, where were you in life? Where were you living? What were your family situation, work, whatever you want to tell us about that point in life.
When I was diagnosed with brain cancer, I was in a really insane job that would give, I shouldn't say this, but it would give anybody a brain tumor. And I was living on my own. My family is here in San Francisco, and I'm very close to them. And at first, it didn't look like it was any big deal. It looked like it was low blood pressure or some other simple thing like that. And it turned out that it was actually a brain tumor. And that was October 10th, 1996, that I had the surgery. And the surgery came up very quickly. It was about a week after the MRI that showed me that I had this brain cancer. And how did it affect me? It blew me away. I mean, I could first, it was like, pardon me, I'm afraid I didn't understand you. What did you say? Well, you have a tumor about the size of a golf ball in the left-hand side of your brain, right behind your eye, which explained a lot of the weird visual things that have been going on for me behind my left eye. And the headaches and this dizziness that I had felt. But nonetheless, it was such a shock. You never imagine yourself to have a brain tumor. It's like, from a Woody Allen movie, But anyway, it's what it was. No cancer in my family, just out of the blue, a brain tumor. Oh, I think it took really rather a while, maybe a matter of months, before it really became real. That it really became it was just so unreal initially.
So kind of now that you have survived, what are some of the day-to-day effects that you have to deal with because of, having had this cancer?
Okay.
It seems that there's long-term issues you deal with after a diagnosis, and then there's the kind of effects you on a daily basis, or if it does.
Mm-hmm. There are side effects from all the treatment that went into having a brain tumor removed. First of all, there's the surgery, and then there's radiation. I had, 5 days a week. For 7 weeks, I had 35 treatments of radiation to my brain. I should say the radiation made me lose my left eyebrow, which has pretty much grown back, and then also give me a bald spot up here. And then the chemotherapy, which was no guarantee at all, that's what the last thing I went through, but that actually I think had the most immediate effects on me, which were horrendous. You know, they really were. It really screwed my body up. I lost a huge amount of weight, a huge amount of muscle, which I still haven't gotten back. All these different problems that came about because of the chemotherapy. They weren't intended to cause, the chemo wasn't intended to cause those problems, but that's what happened. In terms of the positive stuff, let me stick with the negative. Still, to this day, I have a real shortage of energy. I'm okay right now. It's whatever, 11 in the morning, but by 3, I'm going to really need to take a nap, most days. I have a really hard time remembering anything short-term. Like, my short-term memory almost doesn't exist. I try to do things to help it, to train it, whatever. It's funny, it's stuff that was already kind of hard for me, like word finding was not hard for me, but word finding now is hard for me, if you know what I mean. It's dealing with too many things at once, can't do it. Become very overwhelmed. And that's always been me anyway. I've always just give me one thing to do and I'll do it well, but don't give me 3 things. And that's become almost impossible. In fact, it has become impossible to deal with more than one thing at once. I'm probably forgetting what other problems I have, but they're really minimal. It's like, that's fine. I don't care. I'm alive. I'm happy. I'm not saying that these are, horrible. Also, on the positive side, though, it's really made me appreciate life so much more. And it's really made me sort of edit out parts of my life or people in my life that I didn't need. And also be much more appreciative of the relationships that I have that are friends and lovers and, my mom and my husband and my pets and all that stuff. Much more present in them, much more mindful, so that I'm not dwelling in my head in the future or dwelling in my head in the past, but really dwelling, right now I'm sitting in this chair talking to you. That's my life. Is right now.
So, in terms of like the support you needed both at diagnosis and even to this day, what kind of support do you find yourself needing, and where do you turn to get it? Like family, friends, places like the Cancer Resource Center. Just if you can describe some of that.
In terms of turning someplace for support. Initially, my friends and my family were phenomenal, which was such a relief. My husband didn't leave me. He didn't disappear. My mom was wonderful. My in-laws were wonderful. Then I got involved with some therapy with a woman who specializes in working with people who have brain injury. And then I got involved with a group therapy, which was wonderful. It was also people who were facing death, fatal illnesses. And that was tremendously supportive because we were all relatively young and, in our 20s or 30s or 40s or whatever. And nobody had really anticipated dying at that point. So we were all talking about, all sort of exploring what that meant. And there were a lot of emotions, of course, very hard emotions, very painful, very serious emotions that came up in that support group. And made okay. They were accepted, those emotions were. There's a program with UCSF, though, that's called Art for Recovery. I think it's related to cancer for, what's it called, the Cancer Resource Center. I think it's probably affiliated with it. But Art for Therapy is run by Cindy Perlis, and you go in and you just sort of become a member. Very easy, and you do art with them, or you do writing, or you sit down and you do a quilt square, and you can say, write out on your quilt square how you feel, I hate cancer, or, I want to live, and I'm so full of hope, or I'm so full of fear, or whatever, which is really whatever you want. And I think that program, Art for Recovery, I know, actually, that it's really supported me a huge amount, as have the other people with art support. Art for Recovery. There's also a spirit workshop where you get together and talk about this, your spirit, about, how you're coping with whatever you're dealing with. There's an art workshop, a writing workshop, all kinds of stuff.
Great. Can you tell us about some of the fears that come along with the diagnosis? Like, I mean, the obvious uncertainty, helplessness, maybe lack of control, like any of those sort of feelings or fears that come up.
Yeah, especially your immediate fears.
Yeah, like right after you hear the news, like,
yeah,
what's going really like.
Right. Are you filming right now?
Yeah.
You are? Okay, well, you won't use this part, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. Right. Part of it is, the first thing that I was hit with, as I said, was a sense of unreality. It didn't click. It was like, who, me? No. And then when people would say that to me, and then I'd say, no, apparently it's true, And the next thing that happened was that I was stunned. I just couldn't quite take it in. When my surgeon said to me, my last day in the hospital, my surgeon said to me, when I was still lying in bed and my family were gathered around, and the surgeon said, well, what do you like doing? And I said, painting. He said, well, paint, just because. And I understood what he was saying. It's like, you don't have a lot more time here on Earth. So you might as well just do what you love. And he said, some people really love to travel. Do you like to travel? I said, oh, yeah. He said, well, go travel, whatever you want. Do it right now. And I really became possessed with that idea of not wasting any time at all, which I feel I've always done. I've always thought, well, I can paint, I can write, I know I can, but it's more important for me to do this horrible job that I hate than to spend any time writing or painting, because, well, I have to do this stupid job. I mean, I don't really have a choice, but we do have choices, and so it made me more aware of that. And it made me, I have to stop here for a second, I'm sorry. We're thinking about the fears that it brought up, the diagnosis.
Just general, or anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be fears. It could be, looking to the future for the positives.
Okay, but what were the words that you had written down there?
We have been hearing about uncertainty and helplessness, and
okay.
lack of control over, your life all of a sudden.
Right. Well, initially, I think I thought I could control it all. That if I did all the right things, if I ate the right food, if I exercised, if I did Eastern as well as Western medicine, which I did, if I did meditation, if I took the right herbs, Eastern herbs, if I did acupuncture, if I went to therapy, both individual and group, if I read the right books, just like goes on, and did, really used art and writing as a way of expressing what I was going through, that if I did all those things, that I could get over this stuff. And somebody said to me, it sounds like you think that it's like you're walking across a ravine, like an incredibly out of control river, and you think that if you step on all the right pieces of stone along the way that you'll survive. And I sort of heard that and I went, oh gosh, yes, it does pretty much sound like that. But the reality is that I can't control any of this. And maybe what I did helped my chances. I don't know why. I have no idea why I've survived, but I had to give up that idea of control. And then I realized that to some degree I was helpless, but that we all are. And it's just sort of the state of being alive is, to some degree, we're helpless. And then I realized also that to some degree feeling love with your friends, with your family, with your pets, whatever, with your art, whatever it is that you really care about, I don't know if it creates a less sense of helplessness, but it somehow helps you be okay with life, comfortable with life. It also helps, I think, when you're in a group, to realize that you're not the only person who feels completely disconnected, helpless, all the things that you feel when you're given a fatal diagnosis, that all these other people feel the same thing, and you go, oh, you mean I'm not a weirdo? I'm not, the only person in the world who ever thought about this, who ever felt this. It's like, so-and-so here says, are you kidding? I feel that way too. It's like, oh, okay, well, that feels a little better. So, yeah.
All right, and then last, I think, is how are you right now? How's life treating you right now, basically?
Okay, I want to take a minute also to think about that,
Yeah, take your time.
if I may. All right. My life right now is amazingly good, I have to say. Even though I went through that incredible trauma, came very close to losing my life. My husband went through it also. My mother did also. They've been very affected as well. I don't quite know how they are, but I know that I'm doing really well with what happened to me and where I am now. I mean, to say that I'm grateful for being alive doesn't touch it. I'm just, often when I'm falling asleep, I say thank you to the great power, whatever the great power is. Thank you for bringing my life back. And I'm very keen on doing what I love in my life, which is art, which is writing, which is working with people, sharing hope, because surviving brain tumor, glioblastoma multiforme grade 4 is so unusual that often people hear that and they go, you're kidding. You mean, and they say, well, maybe the diagnosis was wrong. And I say, I don't think so. So those things have become, doing what I really love has become even more important. And I think that's good, actually, because why spend our lives doing things we hate when we can do things we love? And, it's not a waste of time. I'm not saying that it's not like sitting around eating peanut butter out of the jar. It's just, that's what I love, whatever. It's art and writing and working with art for recovery, that kind of thing. So.
That's great. So do you have anything else? Is there anything else you want to share?
Well, actually, it's made my relationships better too, I would say. Just because I'm a lot more aware of being real with people. And I've also sort of been much more honest with, I won't say sort of, I've been more honest with people in my life who have become friends, and then I realize, or they've been coming along the path to being a friend, and I've realized that no, it's not going to work for me for whatever reason. And I've been able to say those hard words of like, I'm so sorry, but I just don't think this is going to work. I have a world of respect for you, but I can't, don't think I can be your friend. I couldn't do that before. That's taking care of myself better. So I think that's.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about art for recovery?
Yeah, I do actually.
Another tape soon.
You're fine. You're fine with this, but
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. Art for Recovery is an amazing program. It's got so many components. It's like a big umbrella, Art for Recovery. And underneath it, it's got all these projects that are going on, all created by Cindy Perlis and not run by her. But, there, as I think I've mentioned, there's a writing group, there's a painting group, there's a spirit group, there's a quilt making group, there's a, I'm blanking right now, and all the other groups that exist. And, they're free. And, you can come into one and really explore in a safe place how you feel about having your breast removed because you had breast cancer, about being told that you have maybe a couple of months to live and that's all. And you can feel safe there. You can feel like what you're saying is going to be kept in confidence. I think it's an extraordinary project. I think it's an extraordinary phenomenon, Art for Recovery. And it's not just art, visual art. It's many types of art. So I think it really gives a space for people to come to terms with what might be coming down the line for them, which I think is a huge gift, frankly.
Wonderful. And just real quick, can you just say my name is and my involvement with Art for Recovery is, or your title within it, or
Or you just
or do you just
participant in
are
it?
you a participant in it, or
Oh,
do
yeah.
you're just a
Yeah.
participant?
Well, let's see. What
Are you a
am I?
mentor too?
No, I don't even know what that. I mean, I know what a mentor is, but I don't know how I would
guess
become
they
an
have a
official one.
peer mentor.
Peer counseling or something. Yeah, just if you could just say my name, say just Art for Recovery, or I turned to Art for Recovery, or even just has played a big role in my life. You know, 'cause it seems it has.
Okay.
A quick soundbite about, because it would be good for the segment we're giving to them. Just a soundbite about you and Art for Recovery.
Okay.
Like
All right. Let me think for a second. What if I said, my name, and then I said that Art for Recovery has played a huge role in my post-cancer life, post-diagnosis life.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay, so my name is Laura Oliver, and I'm 48 years old, and Art for Recovery has played an enormous positive role for me in my post-cancer diagnosis in my life, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's perfect.
Do you have artwork and any